Hey, everybody. Long time no see. We are pressed for time. I'm your host, Benny Rose, and always with me is Tyler Nethers. What's
What's
up,
going
buddy?
on? How you doing, man?
Hanging in. And again, 2 weeks in a row, we have an amazing show lined up for you today. Today, we're going in a little bit of a different direction because, again, we're a variety show and we're all
Mm-hmm.
about a variety of passions that we're into. So, the guest that we have today is somebody that is humongous, in my opinion, in the world of Five Nights at Freddy's, which many of you know I talk about a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Having my son be a diehard fan, I have grown to become a big fan myself, rocking my Chica shirt today. Um,
Mm-hmm.
this person has been known to create some of the best cosplay I've ever seen that goes more than just a costume. He
Yeah.
pretty much embodies these characters that we love in the world of Five Nights at Freddy's. He's been doing it for many years, and you might know him as the regular sauce. We have Atreyu here. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, thank you for having me. I don't usually do anything like this often, so I'm very happy to be here. And you guys seem awesome, so I'm super excited to just talk about FNAF and cosplay stuff.
Yeah, no, we
Um,
appreciate that. Thank you as well.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, man. So, as somebody, as we've discussed, I'm kind of outside the loop when it comes to Five Nights at Freddy's. But I've seen your cosplay videos and everything else, and it's not just like you're not just like the best at doing Five Nights at Freddy's cosplay. Because I'm pretty big in other cosplay scenes. The stuff that you make is the highest quality cosplay I've seen anywhere. I mean, you could put that in any competition with any other group, and I've never seen anything at the level of what you produce, and that's just astounding to me. So I'm really excited to learn a little more about how that works in the process that you go through to make that stuff, because that's just mind-blowing to me.
yeah, no, that means a lot. Honestly, I'm kind of unaware of every all the other cosplay stuff around me. It's it's been kind of just like I'm kind of like in a weird dilemma because anything I create is usually because I have a passion for that franchise. Like, I mean, obviously, Five Nights at Freddy's is my biggest thing. Um, but like, I don't know if you guys saw my Pyro cosplay from Team Fortress. I put a ton of effort into that one, and I created like the bodysuit from scratch. Um, and like my biggest thing is always I don't really want to create a cosplay of the character. I want to bring the character completely to life. Um, my biggest inspiration, I think, for the way I build my costumes is Disney's new set of characters they're starting to put out in the parks, where the
Yeah.
characters have like eyes and they're super alive. Um, and that's not very hard to do. Like anybody can do that. Like there's especially Five Nights at Freddy's cosplayers, the FNAF cosplay community is insane. There was like a 14-year-old the other day that was messaging me and he was inspired by my spring trap and he's got like the whole hand mech working just by himself at like 14 years old and like it's
Incredible.
really crazy. Yeah, like the FNAF fan base is especially passionate about what they do and I think just throughout like it's so many talented people and especially the cosplayers. um I haven't really been too deep in other cosplay communities, but you know it's I love building stuff and making things actually like come to life for people. I mean, specifically whenever I bring any of my Freddy's out, there's always like a horde of kids that believe it's Freddy Fazbear, and
Yeah.
that's the
Amazing.
reaction I want. It's not just a costume; it's actually Freddy Fazbear standing there in front of them, and that's my main thing.
Absolutely. And hands down, it is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And the fact
Yeah.
that you do it for the love of the passion, but you're also bringing like joy to kids in the world of, there's a lot of people that will do cosplay and they'll usually do it, at conventions and there's usually like signings and things like that. There's always like a special occasion. I kind of like that you just kind of go out there, especially some of those videos more recently that went viral with Glamrock Freddy, and you went into like, the kind of Chuck E. Cheese kind of places. And it's like literally you brought him into his environment and you
Yeah.
made it look like, like we're watching Security Breach. It's really exciting to see the kids' faces and again showing my son some of the videos and then him telling me, I've seen Sauce. I know Sauce. Yeah, he's the one that he was walking around with Vanny, and he's telling me this, and it's just awesome having a 6-year-old know so much about the stuff, but not just like the brand, but seeing people in the community and seeing
Hmm.
how other fans are embracing it to the next level. Because almost all the videos he watches is the creative stuff. People modding the figures, people dressing up, people doing like Blender, and they're making their own stories, so they're retelling stories of the Bite of 87, 83, whichever way we want to, you know, say which one that is. But it's really cool that the community is so warming, and we live in a world where I think every fandom has toxicity. I feel like I haven't seen it as much in
Yeah.
this community.
And that's
I
what I was
wanted to
going to
ask you
say is the
what
community around Five Nights at Freddy's has seemed really, really open and embraces, a lot of communities, especially when they're ones that draw a younger audience as well as an adult crowd. The adults kind of hold the kids at arm's length,
right.
or the kids don't know how to interact with the adults. But the Five Nights at Freddy's community seems to really be a community that everybody comes together, and there is none of that, adults, kids, any of that. Everybody's just a fan. So that's really cool. And I mean, do you kind of feel that way as somebody in that community and somebody who goes out and engages with people? Do you feel like there's a pretty solid connection between the adult fans and the kid fans?
100%. Like, I mean, going back to the first time I took Glamrock Freddy out to, it was around one arcade. I don't know if you guys have those where you are, but it's like a
No.
arcade chain.
Yeah. Got it. Okay.
So I brought him out there, and I like talked about it like a day in advance on TikTok, and there were people my age, people older than me, and then like so many kids. Like FNAF is such an interesting franchise because it pulls from every age demographic, and it's interesting to all of them. I mean, like I'm 20 years old. I've been interested in FNAF since I was 12. Like, it's FNAF is really one of those franchises that like it can just pull everybody together, and the fan base, especially, like, I mean, talking about the Blender animation people, like I'm friends with a lot of animators, and like they're every day on TikTok, and I don't use TikTok that much. Twitter, I'll go on Twitter and I'll see people like post Pixar level quality Five Nights at Freddy's
Agreed.
animations.
Insane.
Those people are like 17 years old and younger, like
Yeah.
crazy, like insane,
Yeah.
insane talent. And like I haven't really seen that in any other like community. Like I rarely see it. I'm like only really other like in the Sonic fan base and some of the Mario stuff, like Mario fan base. But like I've never seen anything like the Five Nights at Freddy's fan base, because it has so many talented people, and people that will go from like just going into Blender just to wanting to do that stuff, and then become like master class animators, like insane stuff.
It's
Um,
true.
it's super interesting what the series has kind of created, and I think the games themselves, that I mean, the original games are, I've been trying to like talk about this to my partner too. We've been trying to like kind of figure out, why FNAF has such a big audience, and why I can't even explain why I love it so much. Like I just have a bond to it. Um, and like it's super interesting how it has such a big age demographic, and how it just consistently pulls like new fans, like with every game.
It's true. And I'll say that, my son is 6. Most of his life he was diehard into Thomas the Train. That was like
Really?
what
Oh,
he was
okay. I'm
hardcore.
sorry.
Yeah, good.
I was the biggest Thomas fan, and I'm still a little bit of a big Thomas fan. I'm a big model train person. I was the biggest Thomas fan until like fourth grade, and I was the outcast in school because I loved Thomas, and everybody was like into Star Wars and stuff. And like, yeah, no, your son is awesome.
He's gonna he's gonna love to hear that. I'm telling you right now.
I think we
I
found the
mean,
connection. It's
yeah.
it's Thomas the Tank Engine is the gateway
Yep.
to Five Nights at Freddy's. There's a connection here that we don't know about yet.
Because
this
I would
I
say, yeah,
this is something that we need to take to Twitter. We need to ask how many people were
it's a
originally
good
into Thomas and are now into FNAF. I do feel like there might be connection there, because the whole thing with Thomas that got me was the whole model train aspect, and that was always interesting thing to
the
me as a kid.
mechanics.
And I think, yeah, going into FNAF, it's all about the animatronics. I feel like there's definitely some kind of connection there
Yeah.
somewhere. So now I'm intrigued. There has to be something there.
I think we
Sounds
need
like
to
it's
look
time
this.
for a Twitter
Yeah.
poll. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah,
That
definitely.
sounds like fun. But yeah, so he was into that for a long, long time. But then last year he got like this itch. He must have saw a video and then he's like, oh, I really like this character, Bonnie. And then one day we went to Walmart. They had the Wave One figures last year of all years. Weird because they've been out for so long. And he's like, oh, can I have it? I rarely tell my kid no. So I'm like, sure. That was it. It was over. And then a friend of mine who is his uncle Andrew, he spoils him. And one day he came to visit and he had a box from a loot crate because he used to get the loot crates all the time. And he's like, oh, you told me that he likes a little bit of this Five Nights at Freddy stuff. He's like, there was something in one of the old loot crates. He gave me one of the minis from the first wave that was randomly in there. So he got that. Then it was like, oh my God, I got it. And then he got, that was it. Then his birthday party last year was at Chuck E. Cheese with Five Nights at Freddy's thoughts in his mind, and a year. We're almost at a year. Next week will be his 7th birthday. The amount of knowledge this kid has grasped in 1 year blows my mind. You
Yeah.
ask him anything, he's got the book with the encyclopedia. He asks his my wife to read him stories every night from that book. He memorizes them. It's just insane. But again, it just speaks to the volume of how much context there is. It's not just a game. There's so much story and there's so much interest. And then when he started explaining to me, because I didn't get it, I'm like, yeah, it's like a jump scare game. I don't care. Like I wasn't into those types of games, but then he's like, yeah, but this is what happened. And I'm like, I'm being schooled by a 6 year
Hmm.
old. And then I'm like watching these stories and I'm like, oh my God, William Afton. Oh my God. Like, yeah, it's really cool. And the fact that his favorite character is Withered Bonnie. Love it.
He's one of the coolest ones. Yeah, no, Withered Bonnie is awesome.
So let me ask you now, with the fandom at where it is, now we know that Hollywood has acknowledged it. Blumhouse is coming out with a movie. Scott's involved to some capacity. Do you feel that it's in good hands, knowing that you have the creator that's involved in some aspect, knowing the history of video game translations to movies is not usually very great. We did have a Super Mario movie that is almost at $1 billion now. Granted, it's
Yeah,
very different property in a sense, but still, I felt that the reason it was successful not just because it was Mario, but because it was faithful to what we know as the character. Everything else tries to like reinvent something. Do you think that the movie is going to stay fairly faithful? Do you feel like we're going to get a big departure? And like, are you excited for it? What's your thoughts?
so I'm very, very excited for the FNAF movie. I have extremely high hopes. Um, so I do know that Scott is pretty involved because the one of the actors, Kat Connor Sterling, posted like a picture of her, like not anything in the script, but holding the script, and Scott is front and center on that. Scott, main screenwriter, he's the one who did that. And knowing that the movie has been in production hell for so long, and that was most likely because Scott, like he's talked about in the past, for like the past whenever he was still online and talking about the movie's development, he'd always be like, I didn't like the script this time, we're redoing it, we're redoing the script, we're redoing the script. I think that's why the movie took so long, and
Right.
they finally hit that point where it was like, let's just make this movie. And Scott's still front and center there. And then knowing Jim Henson's is at front and center with those animatronics and that picture they released, like that Freddy is like 1-to-1, like
Which is
insane.
incredible.
The people there at Henson's have been doing such an amazing job, and I'm so excited to see those in motion. Like, I've been seeing just like some of the cast saying like, oh, we did the puppeteering for this and that, and just super duper cool stuff. And I'm very excited. I'm like, probably as a I mean, I'm a big fan of the Sonic movies. I know those movies are kind of okay, but I like them just because I'm a big Sonic fan. I think Five Nights at Freddy's has the potential to be one of the best video game adaptations of all time, only because Scott kind of knows what he's doing sometimes. I mean, the books
Right.
are kind of a mixed bag, but I think since this is just like a retelling, like the Silver Eyes was the first FNAF book,
Right.
I feel like it'll probably be on that same level. And I love the Silver Eyes. I think that's kind of a perfect adaptation of what FNAF was at that point. Um, and I think the movie will, be even further just a better adaptation. And it'll be fun to see those original characters again after FNAF 1 being what, 8 years ago.
Which is
So
insane when you think about that, and how many versions of these characters we've seen, these different iterations. And now we have a fan verse, Tyler, if you're not familiar, there's other creators that essentially have Scott's blessing and kind of create other characters in a world that is somewhat connected to
Okay.
Freddy's world. And
Yeah.
we've seen figures and tons of merchandise made by even the fanverse stuff, which is, it's really cool to see that he embraces the community, which that's something I'm curious to see if we'll see any of that in the movie. For example, I know everybody talked about, oh, is Markiplier going to be in the movie, things like that, but I'm thinking more of like, there's a lot of musicians that have made music like JT and stuff like that. Like, are we going to hear any of that music? Like, does Scott want to bring that stuff in? Because I feel like people will lose their mind, because even though it's a big production, I feel like just bringing stuff in from the community would just make it otherworldly, because it hasn't been done.
Yeah.
Like, do you think that that's something that you'd be like excited for?
I mean, I love the Living Tombstone, and I feel like the Living Tombstone, if
Agree.
any FNAF song creator was going to be in that movie, probably be Living Tombstone, because they've got, I think the two ones that come to mind would probably be either It's Been So Long or the original FNAF song.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I do. I mean, like, what was it? I think it was Razbowski. He did a video because Razbowski's another FNAF YouTuber. He recently visited the movie set. Scott invited him and a couple other YouTubers out there, and he was talking about it like in a non-spoiler kind of like NDA friendly thing.
Right.
And he brought up that there was just a ton of like small references, like almost like how the Mario movie does it. So it's just like there's
Easter
details
eggs
everywhere.
everywhere, essentially.
Yeah, that's basically what the FNAF movie is going to be like from what it sounds like. So it sounds like it's just going to be pulling from everywhere, both from inside the games. And I wouldn't be surprised if we get some fan stuff in there. I know that Scott wouldn't be like, I can only imagine that he would be okay with referencing the fanverse games in some kind of capacity, because in Security Breach, one of the arcade machines in the base game, it has the Joy of Creation Freddy, and that's one of the fanverse games. So they reference the fanverse game in an official mainline game. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that same arcade machine in the movie.
Right.
Like,
That's
I
awesome.
definitely feel like it's going to be pulling from all over the place, and I am interested to see if he'll actually bite the bullet and put like fan songs in it, because that's kind of, you think of FNAF and you see it online, and it's always accompanied by, especially with like TikTok and stuff, it's always accompanied by one of the popular
Popular
FNAF songs.
songs.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I've
interesting.
always thought. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Well, I was gonna say it's interesting to me as somebody that has never played the games, doesn't have a foot in that world at all. All of my exposure to Five Nights at Freddy's is from the community. It's from fan made stuff. Like I would have no idea what's actual canon and what's fan made, because my only exposure is from the community. And unlike Nintendo, no shade at Nintendo at all. They're really protective of their IP. Fan made stuff gets shut down real fast. It's nope, it's either mainstream or it's not. But with Five Nights at Freddy's, it seems like it's a completely open source almost. You know what I mean? And everybody has the freedom to make what they want. So all of my exposure has been from people like you doing stuff on YouTube, or people posting stuff on Twitter like, hey, I made this, hey, I made that. So I would have no idea, going in as somebody that doesn't know a whole lot. Watching the movie, it would all seem intentional to me, and that's just so cool to me, the fact that there is so much involvement and that the creators embrace what the creative community can do for their project, as opposed to trying to keep them at arm's length. So I, as an outsider, am very excited for the movie, and they filmed it basically in my backyard, as Benny informed me. So
Oh, really? You're in Louisiana?
yeah.
Isn't that crazy, dude?
That's
I
awesome.
remember when those pictures started leaking. I text Tyler. I was like, "Dude, do you live anywhere near here?" Like, I don't
Yep.
know if we could figure out where it was, but he's like, if they're still casting, let me know. You can come stay here and get the kid in the movie or something.
Yep.
But it's cool. Like, it's just funny how that worked out. But yeah.
Yeah, no,
It's
I lived in Baton Rouge for a second there in like 2020. So when they started when they said that they were gonna be filming over there, it's like, oh my God, I wish I was over there, now.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Vegas, but you know, it
I,
is kind of like the place too. It's a little bit gloomy, always kind of rainy.
I was gonna ask you how the weather's been because I know that it most of the time it's not raining, but you've been getting rain a little more like the past couple of years, right?
Uh, so I've been all over the place. I went from being in Vegas a couple of months ago. I'm back in Texas. I'm gonna be in Vegas again in 2 months.
Got it.
So like I'm all over the place. There was a pretty bad storm last night though. But from my year in Vegas, it barely rained. And there
Yeah,
was a lot of dust storms. Dust storms are kind of terrifying.
Oh, I
I
bet.
can
But not as
imagine.
bad as
Yeah,
I
yeah,
wouldn't know.
we get the rain. I'm in New Orleans. Well, I mean, just outside New Orleans. So we definitely we definitely get the rain. And it's termite swarming season. So last night there were like 10 million termites outside my house. If you step out, you just got covered in them. And
Are you
where I
serious?
record in here is the sunroom attached to the end of my house. So it's an add-on. And it's really not super well sealed from the swarms. So I had my lights on last night and I was in here playing and they're crawling on my ceiling and I'm sitting here playing Genshin and they're just dropping on me as I'm sitting here and I'm like, oh shit, termites, termites.
that's terrifying.
I would literally burn my house down.
It was
Yeah, no,
awful.
I can't like the thing with Louisiana. It's just it's the crawfish everywhere
Yeah.
too. Like I'd be outside my yard and there would be like a little stream and there'd be crawfish and I'd be like, dude, I've never seen those alive. Those are
Yep.
crazy.
Yeah. So if you look out, I mean, you can't see, but if you look out of my yard, I've got all little look like volcanoes, the little mounds with the holes in them where the crawfish come bursting up out of the ground and then scuttling away.
It's
That's
insane. It's a whole
awesome.
different world.
It
I'm over
is,
here
man.
on the East Coast in Jersey and just I deal with
Yeah.
centipedes and
No, Louisiana is the Australia of America.
yikes.
All kinds of nonsense. But anyway, back on track.
Yeah.
So what got you into Five Nights at Freddy's in the first place? Like, was other than Thomas the Tank Engine, where did that start for you?
Man, honestly, I like it. This has been something on my mind like a lot recently because I've been trying to figure it out. But like, I do know I originally got into it through Markiplier's playthrough. I saw the thumbnail for the first playthrough, like for the first game, a couple of times when I was just scrolling through YouTube when I was 12, and I was like, that looks terrifying. I'm not going to click on that. And then I don't know what changed. Maybe I heard somebody talking about it, but I watched it and I was like enamored. Just it was terrifying and I had nightmares for weeks, but like the whole lore side was enamoring. At that point, there wasn't really theories, it was mostly like creepy pasta like retellings of the story. And I think those are what really got me into it. That's what roped me in. And then the second game came out and it was like teasers everywhere. You have to brighten up the photo and there's a puppet in the box. Like when Scott was releasing all those, I remember I was always on top of that. And then when the second game dropped, I called up my neighbor and I was like, dude, we need to play this right now. And I was too afraid to play the games. So I'd get his brother to play it because we were both terrified to play it. So we
Yeah.
just watch him play it on the phone. But like I honestly I couldn't even tell you why I got so attached to it. It's like it's I think the lore just enamored me and just the general like animatronics and all that was like super interesting to me. It put me down the rabbit hole of learning about like the Chuck E. Cheese Pizza Time Theater and Showbiz Pizza days. And like I'm a huge Showbiz Pizza fan now. So like it's FNAF has opened up a lot of different rabbit holes for me, and I got really interested in just the whole animatronic horror genre, I think.
So that was gonna be my next question is did Five Nights at Freddy's lead you into crafting the animatronics and the cosplay? Or were you already kind of interested in that stuff and then FNAF just kind of fit the bill for you? Like, hey, okay, this is what I'm interested in. Here's a property that I can do that with.
So at that point, I'd been already pretty interested in cosplay since I was like, I guess since I was 9 at that point then. So around that time, my father took me to a convention in San Antonio, San Antonio, Texas, and I saw a bunch of Ghostbusters, and I was like, dude, I want to be one of those guys. So the next year, I went to a thrift store, and I found a vacuum that looked like Luigi's Poltergeist from the first game, and I decked it
Nice.
out, and I bought a Luigi costume. I went to that con, and again, those Ghostbusters were there, and they were freaking out because I was a little baby Luigi with the Poltergeist, and I made like a little nose and everything from like one of those clown squeaky noses.
That's
Um,
awesome.
That's so cool,
and
man.
like from there, I just became obsessed with cosplaying because the community. And at that point, like I'd been kind of a lonely child, so being a part of a community of a bunch of nerds too was very, very fun, and I got into that. And I think at that point, I built like a Minecraft Steve, Sans from Undertale, and then I found Five Nights at Freddy's, and immediately was like, um, I want to build those guys. I think the first game where I actually decided I wanted to build them was in FNAF 3. There is it's like a Freddy's head, jaw, and torso on like a mannequin outside of the doorway in the office. And I was like, I want to build that thing. So I tried to build it. I failed horribly. And then I think by the time Sister Location came out, I tried again, and I tried to build Funtime Freddy, and I gave up, and then built the classic Freddy. And then from then, I've just been building a bunch of FNAF cosplays.
And
That's
they've
really
been
cool.
incredible. I love seeing the history, like when you go back to your videos and you look back and you start with the Freddy, and just how much your knowledge has it shows. And I commend you for like picking up that knowledge. And you said you were self-taught, right? Essentially
Yeah.
just kind of pick, which is again mind-blowing to me, because
Yeah.
when you the intricacies of, all the digits, and I'd say, comparing with Glamrock Freddy again, the eyes, and like it's just incredible. And I know
It's really
you
cool to see how well you so like I said, I went through and I watched as many of your videos as I could, feasibly watch before we did this because I wanted to have, some experience and idea of what it was you do. And kind of all the way circling back to one of the original points is how well you embody the characters. Like I don't know these characters, but each different costume you put on, you are different. Your mannerisms, even the way you stand in each outfit is so totally different. I wouldn't, if I didn't know, I would never guess you were the same person in every single one of those. So you're embodying each of these characters in addition to crafting the outside. How do you approach that? I mean, do you just watch in the game and you're like, hey, this is kind of how they act? Or is that something you just bring to the table? Like, hey, to me, this is how, if I was this character, this is what I would do.
So it's definitely like I've got some friends that can like rip assets from the games and stuff, and there's videos like compiling all the animations from the games. So usually I just study the characters' animations, and then I mean specifically Glamrock Freddy, he's such a character of its own that you can just play security breach and see the way he runs around and stands, and by himself he kind of awkwardly just stands there with his arms to his side, and he doesn't really know what he's doing. But once there's a person there, he's just honed in on that person. So that's his whole thing. And like, that's kind of the mindset I do when I do Glam Rock Freddy. It's always like if I see a kid, if it's pretend it's that kid's birthday party, give that kid attention as Freddy Fazbear. Um, and then like with a character like Classic Freddy, he's more of going to the animations from Help Wanted too, because that was the first game that he actually physically moved around in, like walked around. Before then, it was all just stills. Like the previous games were just stills from the security cameras. So the VR game Help Wanted actually gave him animation, and I kind of studied that, and then also going with the whole idea that it's not really the character, it's some kind of force moving
the
that character
entity.
around.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like again with that character, it's like Freddy in the games too. I remember Phone Guy says that like the animatronics act weird around adults and they just kind of stare. Um, and with kids, they're normal. They're happy. They act like they're supposed to. So that's the whole thing with classic Freddy too. It's like, you know, around every person, I act differently. Unless I'm walking around in the middle of a mall, then I just walk straight forward and get video because it's hilarious. Um, but like, yeah, no, it definitely is a lot of like looking into it. And I remember I used to do, well, I still kind of look into it, but like I got really into creature acting at one point, just kind of, seeing how professionals do it and trying to apply that to the cosplay stuff because, I think another thing for me is, I mean, I touched on this before, but like bringing those characters to life, very big thing for me. So whenever I go out in any of my costumes, even if it's at a con, I'm going to be that character. And, obviously I'm not going to like try to jump scare people or scream at people unless they ask me to. But like, it's just all about making sure that the character can come to life in any environment it's in because it really adds to the full build too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the big differences I would say, especially is all the characters that you portray is you're actively portraying them. You're not just a guy wearing a suit. Each character you seem to be the character, and I think that's a big part of what separates what you do from kind of what I was saying, what other cosplayers not necessarily do. So that's really cool.
Yeah, most of the shows you'll go and you'll see people walking around and they just wave, can I take a picture with you? Yeah, sure. And then they just keep going as first, and then you'll have the handful of people that are like embracing it.
Yeah.
You'll
Yeah,
have
most of the
somebody
people it's
dressed up
like,
as
hey,
the
there's
penguin, like trying to creep people out, and
right.
That
Yeah,
reminds
there's Susan dressed as Lightning from Final Fantasy 13, and then there's Lightning in the convention,
it's true.
Yeah, I think the character I really embraced was Springtrap. I don't know if you've seen any of my Springtrap videos, but
Mhm.
with
So good.
Springtrap, his whole thing is he's William Afton. He's a guy who started everything. He's not a good thing, and he is supposed to be dead, but he's alive. So with him, it's always kind of like the motions with him. It's always about he's really struggling.
Like he's
All
tormented
his
because
motions
he's
are
pretty much
calculated.
still decaying from the inside.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the only thing keeping him moving is just pure like will to be evil. So with him, it's always like whenever a kid asks me for a picture, I stand there or I'll look at them. There was like a video I remember where I was just staring at this kid and I like slowly lift up my arm and then he like looks behind me and I just put it down and just deactivate. Like it's always so fun to bring the characters to life, especially the Springtrap was I think the most fun to bring to life, and Glamrock Freddy, but Springtrap is a little bit more my style. I think I like characters that are kind of evil.
Yeah.
I
That's
mean, he's
cool.
at the
No, that's
core of
fun to
anything.
yeah, it's fun to really dive into something that's not necessarily your standard persona.
Mm-hmm.
It's neat. So do you branch out? Do you watch like a lot of horror outside of Five Nights at Freddy's, or is that kind of its own thing for you?
Five Nights at Freddy's kind of got me into horror. I'm really trying to get into horror. Um, I mean, I'm a pretty big. I mean, have you guys seen the movie Skinamarink? That's like a
Mhm.
recent
Yeah.
horror movie. I watched that with my partner when I was up visiting them in Illinois, and I really like that one. That's the last one I can remember that I really like. I'm a very big Chucky fan. I love Chucky.
Okay.
Yeah, I love Chucky. Um,
Spoiler alert: we have to get Tyler to watch Chucky. He hasn't
Yeah, I
watched
haven't
any
seen
of them.
Chucky.
you haven't seen any of them?
No, no Child's
We're
Play.
trying to figure out if we could do a stream or something to get him to watch it.
Yeah, Chucky's one of those series. I mean, you need to watch all of them. I mean, like there's bad ones, but
In
Chucky
every
is one of those.
franchise, yeah, there is.
Well, no, Chucky's is one of those series that derails itself and it just embraces it, and it's
Nice.
hilarious. It's like Five Nights at Freddy's derailed itself and it went to sci-fi. It went from like kind of realistic animatronic horror to complete sci-fi. Like security breaches miles from what it originally was, and that's not a bad thing. It's just Five Nights at Freddy's. That's what it is now.
Right.
But like Chucky is one of those franchises that derails itself, and it's like this is actually kind of hilarious. Let's just run with this, and that's why I love it. It's got that same kind of, you know, not same energy, but it's same kind of area in my brain as FNAF, I think.
Yeah, I can see that. No, so I was going to say
Yes.
you remind me very much of like Del Toro and the creature effects, and especially his Hellboy movies, which are I mean they're not horror, but I have such a place in my heart for Del Toro's Hellboy movies, and the fact that everything is practical effects, everything is creature driven. Or you look at Pan's Labyrinth and the way that all of those monsters are portrayed, that is the way you do cosplay very much reminds me of how, especially like a Doug Jones does, the Pale Man in Pan's Labyrinth, or anything else, Abe Sapien, Abe Sapien in
So
Hellboy,
cool.
or the creature whose name I can't think of in The Shape of Water. Like, Doug Jones is clearly all of those characters, but every character is so distinct and so unique. So the way I was just interested if you had a big connection to Del Toro and the way he does his films, because it's so similar to the stuff that you do.
I honestly haven't seen many of Del Toro's movies, and so my dad was a very, very big Pan's Labyrinth fan, and because of that, I saw it a lot on the TV as a kid, and it freaked me the hell out. So it's one of the movies I need to watch. It's just,
It's been a while.
it's definitely been a while. Like, the Dark Crystal was also one that was on the TV a lot, and I know that's like puppeteering and stuff, but I think that was also always in the back of my brain.
Yeah.
What's the movie? I think it is just called Labyrinth. It's like a movie with puppets.
Yeah.
Oh, the older
That's
one,
David Bowie.
with David Bowie.
Yes. Yeah, I remember that one. My sister was a huge fan. That one was always on the TV. I remember actually watching that one. I was terrified, but I watched that one.
Labyrinth was good.
Yeah, I think I had more of a connection to the kind of puppeteering side of that kind of stuff. And I mean, obviously there's creature actors and stuff in that, but I didn't really learn any of the names until like I watched Stranger Things. And who plays who's a creature actor for the Demogorgon? I remember it was a name I recognized.
I can't think of his name offhand, but you're right. Yes.
I'm pretty sure it is the same guy from Pan's Labyrinth. I'm like,
It's not Doug
20%.
Jones. It might be the guy that
Okay.
plays the fawn, because there's somebody in the
Yeah,
fawn suit.
I think that's what it is. Yeah, it is.
Yep. And I can't think of his name offhand, but he also works with Del Toro semi-regularly. And yes, he's a big creature actor. He does a lot of the contortionist stuff too.
Oh, I
Yeah,
know what
no,
you're talking about. It
Yep.
goes on his back and everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, that's crazy stuff.
yeah, no, it's still kind of a world I'm trying to get into. It's been mostly just Five Nights at Freddy's for the past 8 years. I once I attach myself to something, it's like all that, and then everything else is just kind of like, oh, that's awesome, and I like that, but it reminds me of Five Nights at Freddy's.
Right. No, I get it.
Like Wally's Wonderland.
That movie is something of its own, and I have opinions on that movie. I love Nick Cage, but like apparently that movie was originally just straight up like a FNAF clone, and then Scott had to step in and tell them don't do that.
Yeah.
I think that's what the rumor was.
Interesting.
So I like that movie, and I think the practical effects are awesome, but it's like also seeing the clones of FNAF in Hollywood, like it was that one and then the Banana Splits movie, like
Would literally just turn the lore upside down in theory.
yeah, and like the theory with the Banana Splits movie, since that was Warner Brothers, since they originally had the FNAF rights and the FNAF rights left them, the rumor is that was the kind of
What
like
the
they
movie was gonna
the
be.
FNAF script. Yeah, so like I watched that one and like with that in mind, like was this actually what it was going to be? I can see why Scott didn't want to do this.
I mean,
But
other
like,
than the fact that it's really gory, I don't know if he's gonna go that gory, but I feel like the plot didn't keep me interested. I had to force myself to get through that movie.
I
oh
don't
no,
think I
same,
even
yeah.
know what you're talking about. I don't think I've even heard of this Banana Split.
Well, theoretically, you're both too young for that because it's like something from the 70s, but it was like a franchise that came back. They made a movie about it, but they were people in suits in the 70s, but in the movie they're animatronics. And it's part of a show, and then the show gets shut down, and they're pissed off that the show gets shut down. So they start killing everybody on the set.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, it's one of those movies. I remember I think I saw somewhere. I don't know if this is true or not, but I think somebody met Lillard at a con, and they were like, "Hey, is there going to be gore in the FNAF movie?" And he just apparently said yes. Apparently, I saw on like 2 tweets people talking about it, and I was like, I don't know if that's true, but
Right.
also I feel like since it's PG-13, and have you guys seen the movie Megan? It was also a
Yes,
recent
exactly. By the
one.
Plumhouse too. Yeah.
Yeah, like that one had a pretty fair amount of gore in it, I think. And
That's what
like,
I'm thinking you can get away with it if they do it right.
yeah, definitely. I don't know if like it's such a weird thing too, thinking about it, because FNAF isn't really known for any kind of gore. They specifically stray
8-bit
away from
usually.
that. Yeah, I mean the books are
Right.
the books
Different,
are
different story.
crazy. Yeah, the books
Yeah.
are like, there is so much murder and horrible, like just there's a whole scene in one of the books of like a kid getting mangled while wearing an endoskeleton, like an endoskeleton suit, and like it explains him just getting his body torn apart in front of his friend, like crazy, crazy stuff. I don't know why Scott is writing this, but he is.
Jesus
So,
Christ.
Well, that's the
dude,
big thing too that,
you
you
have
know,
no
yeah.
idea. This franchise is such a big, like, in the Insecurity Breach, it'll be like, you know, I can see why this is like why it has the rating it has. But like the books are some of the most like screwed up things I've read ever, like ever. Horrible. I mean
And yeah,
they're
and there's so
pretty
much
interesting.
story that's within the games that if you're not playing them like in depth like that, you don't really grasp a lot of that. And a lot of it in the games is translated to like 8-bit graphics, as you know, like Tyler. So basically, one of the biggest story pieces is a part that's known as right now. I would say it's either the bite of 87 or the bite of 83, because
I think
ideally there's two different incidents. So I've been trying to get confirmation, and obviously I think it's still mixed in the air. So the one I'm talking about deals with ideally like the first Freddy, which is Fredbear, and a bunch of kids are bullying one kid, and they're basically pushing him towards the animatronic. Oh, he wants to give you a kiss, and they kind of push his head towards his mouth, and his mouth is open, and the suit is a like a spring lock system. So the idea is that someone can wear it to help in the parties, or it could be done for limited animatronic stuff before it was fully automated. The kid's head's in the mouth, smashes down, crushes the kid's skull immediately. Like, and it's shown in like 2D 8-bit side scrolling graphics. And
Yeah.
Markiplier was the guy who went viral for watching the video, and his jaw, he's just for like 6-7 seconds, and then it's just like it's freaky because you're playing the game in the sense of like you're working in the desk and stuff like that, and it just comes out of nowhere as part of the story. It just throws you off, but then you learn that there's so much more of that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's just
I'm
tons
thinking
and tons of stories that deal with all of these different characters that are killing kids, which is it's scary in context.
Some
But
Stephen
then
King
there's
shit.
there's so much more to it, like the redeeming factors. And that's where I get hardcore to go into the fan made stuff, where some of these people do crazy effects, and what they'll do is they'll retell some of these stories, or they'll make their own, as I'm sure you've seen with like Golden Freddy and Withered Bonnie. And I'm a sucker for all that, because I'm like, that's what I want to see. I want to see Scott embrace that stuff, or his team embrace that. But the movie is like the next best thing. So I'm like really stoked for that.
I'm also trying to think of moments that are kind of like along the lines of that. There is a scene in one of the games where you're being like assisted by an animatronic that wants your help to get out of this, like it's like an underground animatronic bunker, right? Sounds weird. It makes sense in the game a little bit. Um, but at the end of the game, it turns out that they were all plotting against you, and they have like it's called the scooper. It scoops all your insides out, and then they just all crawl in to escape to the world above them. There's crazy moments like that in the game, like the
Wow.
Jesus.
game's like insane.
All right. So
And
we need
which
to
game
play
is
these
that?
games on stream, apparently, Benny.
Just location.
I never finished it, so I didn't realize that was it's okay for spoilers, because obviously I'm very late to the game, but I did start playing it, and yeah, it's a I keep getting to a point where one of the I think Biddy Bab just gets me every time. I'm like, all
Yeah,
right, I gotta take a break.
that game is pretty hard. It took
Yeah.
me that was the first FNAF game I actually played through by myself, and you know, there was that one. I never played Pizza Sim, but I played Help Wanted by myself, and oh my god, playing that in VR,
Oh my yeah. I've
God,
seen some of the videos, people losing their minds.
I had like one of my first panic attacks going inside the FNAF one office. Like,
Yeah.
changes everything. Like, it's like you think you know what it's like to be afraid of FNAF. You know, you kind of went past it by the time of the third game, but
Right.
like seeing it in VR is completely different. When you see them walking past you in the hallway, like the movie is going to. I'm not prepared for whatever the movie is going to do because it's going to be on another level.
It's true. It's exciting though.
Pretty
Either way,
excited.
we have a lot to look forward to. Tyler, you have a lot of homework to do. You have a
I was
lot
gonna
to learn.
say, are the games on Steam?
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah, they're all.
you pretty much get them, and they're pretty cheap.
All right, so I'll
And
buy them all, and we'll start playing them on stream. We'll play through the whole series before the movie comes out, or we'll try to.
that
If
could be
you
cool.
want someone else to join you, I would not mind.
That'd be awesome, man.
100%.
Yeah.
I can give you more pointers and I can
Okay.
explain to you the significance of that little paper on the desk.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
let's
would love
do it.
that. We'll do commentary and everything.
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right, you
let's
hear
do it.
that? First here, we're gonna plan it out. We're gonna do a nice, awesome FNAF stream in the near future. Looking
Yep.
forward to that.
Yep.
Cool.
Absolutely. That'd be so cool.
So I want to step into two things I just want to talk about real quick, really important. First, I want to congratulate you on your newly announced role. You've received a opportunity with Steelwool, which the FNAF world knows, a developer that is responsible for security breach, and just wanted to give a formal congratulations. I know you can't talk much about your role and things like that, but I was just curious, did everything that you do in the scene, do you feel like that helped create this opportunity for you? Is this something that you reached out to? Can you talk about any of that?
Yeah, so I actually 100%. Yeah, they'd seen Glamrock Freddy and they were very big fans. Um, so one of my friends actually, I was going to PAX with one of my friends, and I ended up meeting the CEOs, and there was J Top, Ray McCaffrey, and Andrew Dayton, and we ended up all just hitting it off, and we hung out, and then there was a point at the beginning of this year where I was out of a job because my past job was kind of iffy. And then, I reached out to them and they were like, yeah, sure. So stuff just kind of went
Awesome.
on from there. And that's kind of the point I'm at right now. Just been working on stuff. I'm very, very excited to show off what I've been working on because I think the thing I'm working on right now has been like probably the best thing I've made next to Glamrock Freddy.
That's awesome.
We're excited and we can't wait. And please make sure to let us know when you're ready to announce that. We would love to hear that, and we
Oh
really
yeah.
can't wait.
Yeah, no,
No.
yeah. If I mean, I'm sure. I have no idea, when anything will be announced, but like
Yeah,
you'll
we
see.
understand. We're in
I'll
the
be
world of
talking about.
NDAs. Tyler and I are very familiar with NDAs as well, so we understand it, we respect it. But again, congratulations. We're super excited for you. We hope you have an awesome journey with the team, and hopefully always full disclosure. Remember, we also write for Gaming Age. If Steel will pull some stuff out, we'll be sure to review that stuff and be fair as always.
Yeah.
So,
No, it's really
but
cool though. Like he's saying, I love seeing when somebody that's like makes their passion and the thing that they do for themselves in somehow turn that into what they're able to do for work. Like that's so cool.
I mean, I feel like that's what we strive for when you think about it. Everybody knows
That's
we're
what this
pressed for
is.
time.
Yeah.
We're family men, have regular day jobs. We do this out of pure passion, and we get our hiccups along the way, but we hope that we can grow it. And you're a very big inspiration for that. So we're happy to see that you're able to, you know, put all of this passion that you've done and make your life part of that and revolve around it. So again, one last congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it means a lot, and I really hope that maybe again I can come on the show and talk about FNAF again once there's more to talk about.
Yeah, no, you're welcome anytime. And I think one thing that we should consider is when the movie comes out, I would love to do a spoiler show.
Yeah.
After a little bit when it's out. We'd love to have you on again. We could do that. That would be awesome.
Yeah, no, I'm sure I'll be able to talk about that thing for hours on end. But yeah, no, you guys are awesome. And again, thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it. You guys
Absolutely.
very cool. You know, I really only talked to Benny. Tyler, it's very, very nice to meet you.
You too.
Yeah. But I just want to leave one last thing before we disconnect. Something very important, and it goes out to all of the FNAF community. Okay. On the Twitter world, a lot of us are on there. And again, there's a lot of creators. There's a lot of different accounts for anything Freddy related. You know, we have content creators, cosplayers, developers, you name it. And then we have people that share the news and share the knowledge. And we have a particular page that I've been a fan of, and they've been very, very great to the community. And they are at FNAF Alerts. I'm sure most of you know who they are. They have over 239,000 followers. Very, very engaging with the community. They talk about, they do, you know, voting, like get people engaged with like who's their favorite characters, when toys are found. I did some coverage from Funko last year with my son when Funko sent me out some of the Snap figures. And speaking of my son, he darted in here trying to hide. He's so excited that you're on the show.
Look at him go.
I'll have him come over in a second, but this is very important.
Yeah.
So the long story short is the person that runs the page is just run into some financial issues in life and things like that. Very relatable because again, we put a lot of time and effort into our content and it doesn't always pay. And somebody obviously that has that many followers, the thought process I feel for most people is, oh, they're probably well endowed. They got a ton of followers. They're making money. It's not how it works. Okay. I just want to share that. And I feel that somebody that has been so good to the community, we wanted to find a way to give back. So the three of us combined, we have donated $150 to help out FNAF Alerts. And we're going to put a link to their GoFundMe on here. Serena, we appreciate all you do for the community. And we make sure that, you know, this is getting heard. And we hope, you know, that more people will contribute and keep doing what you do. Keep your head up. It'll get better. And, you know, if we can help in any way, we would be happy to do that. If you guys have anything to say.
No, just exactly what you said. And if you follow our show and you follow the streams that we do, you'll know that we did a sponsored stream a couple weeks ago for Raid Shadow Legends. And all of the money that we are getting, which hasn't been finalized yet, Polarium is still working on finalizing how much we're getting paid out from that sponsored stream. But 100% of the money we make from that stream is getting donated to the account as well. So if you guys have anything that you can possibly give or do, like Benny said, the link will be in the description of the show. Help her out. That would mean a lot to us and would mean a lot to her, I'm sure.
Thank you. Trey, you have anything?
I mean, exactly what you said. I mean, I've talked to Serena a couple of times. She's very awesome. And she does do a ton for the community. Like I see her posts whenever, I mean, she's kind of the main person for FNAF collectibles. And obviously you can't even see most of myself here. Very big FNAF collector. Serena does a ton for the community like that. And actually, I'm pretty sure she has one of the biggest collections of FNAF merch. So, you know, again, if any of y'all could help support her, please do.
Yeah.
Thank you. Again, we really appreciate everybody for being so supportive of us as we've been growing with the show and, you know, embracing the variety that we bring. We're all about it, and we're going to continue to do that. And we are so thankful for Atreyu. Thank you again for taking the time to stop in. I would like to formally announce the elephant in the room. The kid that's over here that's running now that we've gotten the important news. Come here, please. This is Little X. Okay, this is my boy that is a diehard FNAF fan and a fan of Atreyu. So he's not going to hear, but I wanted to make sure that he came over and formally said hi. Okay, he's all shy. You want to show him your new plush?
Hi, hello.
Yeah.
Oh, you got the firework Freddy toy.
Yeah, when your dad's a collector, you know, we tend to find everything, especially all of the. All right, let me finish up, okay? Yeah, he like you, he's a big collector. We're to the point where he's got almost every figure from every wave, even before he was born. We're literally missing like most of those are his. So I said I wanted to get them in here, but yeah, like it's crazy how, like we mentioned, the Thomas stuff. He got to that point where we were just buying all the old Thomas, and now I'm buying all the old Freddy stuff. So
Yeah.
I
I've been going
figured you'd
around from
appreciate
toy store
that.
to toy store. I call Benny from toy stores
Yeah,
and Walmart's like, hey man, they've got some Five Nights at Freddy's stuff. What am I looking for?
and I'm like, he's got it, he's got it, he's got it, he's got it. But
That's all.
again, it's awesome to embrace. But thank you for saying hi to my little guy. And again, we'll let everybody go. We appreciate your time as always. Till next time, take care and have fun.
See you guys.
Bye.